Wow. Hey, much love and respect. Pura vida, mi gente. Got a quick video here. Really good newspaper article here. Shout out to Jah, the God of Israel, for the link. All right. We're going to go to the Library of Congress and we're going to go into the Manitowoc Pilot from January 4th, 1894. This is from Wisconsin, this newspaper. And we go into this part of the newspaper right here. It says reminiscences of Lincoln, his ungainliness, his humor, and his forbearance for cowards. All right. So what I wanted to point out real quick, it says here, no, he wasn't handsome, and yet there was nothing unpleasant, nothing you wouldn't quickly like in Lincoln's looks. He was swarthy, okay? Swarthy, so-called black, as an Indian. Swarthy, just like an Indian. Dark complexion, just like an Indian. With a shock of wiry, jet black hair. Wiry, curly, right? Swarthy, an Indian. With curly hair, jet black hair, which fell in all directions and defied combs and brushes to the death. His eyebrows carried out the shaggy effect, while his bright, keen eyes were gray. So it says Lincoln's personal courage had no limit. He was afraid of nothing on earth. He received, I know, as many a half a dozen letters every week threatening assassination. He never heeded them and seldom referred to them. Okay, so it keeps going about him, but I just wanted to go ahead and show you that very first paragraph real quick. We got another source confirming the same thing. And we're in this book right here. It says American Debate, a history of political and economic controversy in the United States with critical digest of leading debates by Marion Mills Miller. This is from 1916, okay? So about page 336, we go to a part where they're talking about, the debate between Douglas and Lincoln, describing Douglas here. Says Douglas spoke first, and he was frequently interrupted by vociferous applause. At the close of his speech, the cheering and hand clapping was prolonged and tumultuous. When Lincoln rose, the crowd broke into cheers again for Douglas, keeping it up for several minutes. Lincoln, in the meanwhile, waiting patiently. When at length the enthusiasm subsided, he extended his long right arm for silence. When he had partly gained this, he said in an impressive tone, "What an orator Judge Douglas is." This unexpected tribute to their friend aroused wild enthusiasm in the audience. When this applause had run its course, Lincoln extended his hand again, this time obtaining silence more easily. "What a fine presence Judge Douglas has!" exclaimed the speaker earnestly. Again, tumultuous applause followed the tribute. More and more easily, the tall, gaunt lawyer won silence as he went on with admiring exclamations. Then, when the audience had again become silent at his call, Lincoln leaned forward and said, "And now, my countrymen, how many of you can tell me one thing Judge Douglas said?" There was no reply, and Lincoln proceeded to speak without interruption. All right, so he got him. He's like, "All right, yeah, he's all sounds really good and everything, but can you even remember what he said?" Nobody remembered. So what was the point of the speech, right? The contrast between Lincoln and Douglas could hardly have been more marked. Lincoln was 6 feet 4 inches tall and overtopped by several inches, all who surrounded him. He was swarthy as an Indian. Okay? Swarthy. He was dark-skinned, just like an Indian, with wiry, curly, jet black hair, which usually was in an unkempt condition. He wore no beard, and his face was almost grotesquely square. He called himself Lantern-jawed. His eyes were bright, keen, and of luminous gray color, gray color eyes, though his eyebrows were black like his hair. His face usually had a careworn, haggard look, but his laugh was delightful, a high musical tenor contagious. His figure was gaunt, slender, and slightly bent. He was clad in a rusty black Prince Albert coat with somewhat abbreviated sleeves. His black trousers, too, were so short that they gave an exaggerated size to his feet. He wore a high stovepipe hat, somewhat the worse for the wear. He carried a gray woolen shawl, a garment much worn by men in those days instead of an overcoat. He usually carried a faded green umbrella with A. Lincoln in large letters on the inside. Douglas was of very small stature, and standing by the side of Lincoln appeared almost like a dwarf. All right, so I'm gonna end it there. So just wanted to show you guys another source for this. A lot of you probably like, well, that doesn't mean black, that means just means black hair. We've already broke down the many different definitions, dictionaries for Swarthy, and definitely it is being used for people who are considered so-called Negro or being called so-called black. I do have a great example here. They're talking about, in the same book, they're talking about Senator Thomas Corwin. All right, Senator Thomas Corwin, and we're gonna go down here. It says Corwin had an unusually striking face, strong, determined features, and a swarthy complexion, which he often made the subject of his wit. All right, his complexion was the main subject of his wit. Thus, he told of an English dowager seated next to him at a dinner, who asked him in a tone of trepidation, "Is your tribe at peace with the whites?" and of his exclusion from a quadroon ball in New Orleans by the doorkeeper, who waved him away, saying, "No N-words allowed." Okay, they were calling him the N-word. So they do mean so-called black, or that he's a Negro. Okay, dark complexion. All right, so when they're saying Abraham Lincoln was as swarthy as an Indian, they mean dark complexioned. Okay, so very interesting. Make sure you guys watch my full videos on Abraham Lincoln, showing many sources, primary sources of what he looked like, all describing him as dark skinned, him and his parents as well. And we also got an autobiography by himself describing himself. All right, now going back to the newspaper where we got the article for Lincoln, we have a little bonus right here. All right, as I was looking through the same page, I saw this article here. Just going down a little further in this page, it says here, unearth ancient relics. Are you guys ready? Look at this find over here. It's gonna corroborate with all the other newspaper findings we've been showing. Shout out to the archivists with analog and the ones I've been showing about what they've been finding in the mounds and the size of the skeletons in these mounds. It says here again, unearthed ancient relics, bones and weapons of mound builders disinterred in Kentucky. While digging a well near Sand Spring, Kentucky, recently a number of human bones were disinterred, together with a quantity of weapons, spearheads, arrows, and axes of copper, obsidian, and very good brass. The axes especially showing very fair workmanship. The bones all belong to male skeletons, with the exception of one of the best preserved, which was that of a woman, about whose skull was bound a crown, or sort of a diadem of silver, set with an opal cut with skill. All right, so we have this crown with all these jewels, right? These quartz, this opal crystal, and of extraordinary size and luster. All right, the opal. From the appearance of these remains, says the Philadelphia Times, it is probable that this was an ancient battleground on which the slain were buried as they fell. All right, same story as we got when we were reading that book about giants, right? We're going to continue reading that book soon. Local archaeologists who have examined the skulls declare that they are not those of Indians, but of people of superior intelligence. Some of the skeletons are 7 feet in height, one measuring 8 feet 4 inches. Again, 8 foot and 7 foot peoples over here in the mounds being found. Recurring theme, you guys see it's all over the place, and it was reported in all these newspapers. They never told us this stuff. So more so-called giants here in Kentucky. 7-footers and 8-footers wearing crowns with jewels on them. This latter's breastbone is shattered by a copper knife, which was still sticking in the severed bone. The presence of the woman's remains is not to be accounted for, except that she may have been the queen of the tribe, and in person led her host to battle, sharing their lot, and be it interred with them. Among the relics is a lamp provided with a wick, which has hardened almost to a stone, and on the body of which runs a curious inscription cut into brass. The lettering resembles that of Egyptian monuments, okay? It resembles what? Hieroglyphics. You see what they're finding here with these so-called giants, 7 foot, 8 foot people? There is also an engraving on it of an insect strangely like the scarabée of that country. All right, again, America's the true old world. Just like the beetle, we have all those beetles here. Another reminder of ancient history is found in the fact that one of the skeletons has seized another by the heel, and his teeth are still to be seen fixed in it, crunching the bone in his grasp. That these people were identical with the mound builders is more than probable, for it is known that that vanished race was particularly numerous about here. All right, we're just talking about some more mound builders. All right, amazing newspaper report here again with Egyptian hieroglyphic writing, giants with crowns set with an opal cut with scales of extraordinary size and luster. All right, this again was the Manitowoc Pilot from January 4th, 1894. All right, two amazing little articles here in one page in one newspaper from 1894. Hope you guys enjoyed these little reports. Thanks for tuning in once again. Pura vida, mi gente. Hawaii.